All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside In Tennis Podcast. Mitch Michals, your host here on this show, all part of the Believe Network, which has a lot of great content. And as always, this podcast is available on all your platforms as well. Moseying along in the tennis season, clay court here. We're on the road to Roland Garros, and joining me now, friend of the show, haven't chatted with her in a while, a lot of life updates as well. The Olympic gold medalist, tour pro for so many years, representing Puerto Rico. Monica Puig, back on the show. Monica, welcome back. There's so much to get to, and excited to catch up with you here on the show.
Oh, this is awesome. I mean, every single time that, you ask me to come on the show, it's a really easy yes, because, talking tennis is so much fun, and we always have a good conversation. So it's good to be back.
We do, and I would just want to point out, I don't know if you can see that sign over there. It says never underestimate a lady who plays tennis, so that's part of the decor. I'm going to order one that says never underestimate a lady who runs an Ironman in like the top of the class too. So
yeah, we're a different breed of crazy, because I thought, the tennis world was sort of insane, and then all of a sudden you dive into something completely unknown and you're like, well, there's another level out there, and I'm sure there's many, many more, but I think I'm gonna limit myself to the Ironman, and that's kind of like my ceiling there.
So first of all, I want to say, obviously, congrats to those that don't know. Monica is a mother to be. It's how far along are we at this point?
Just about maybe starting out 6 months here. So the clock is ticking,
Okay.
which, at the beginning I was super scared. Even though it was something completely planned, talked about, wanted by both my husband and myself, that initial first, like, oh my God, we're going to be parents kind of thing. It's scary, it's overwhelming. But then now I think as we start buying everything, I'm painting the nursery, like all that stuff, you're just kind of like, okay, well, now it starts turning into a little bit more excitement. I imagine as, the beginning of summer starts to roll around, I'll freak out again a little bit. But no, it's going to be a really, rewarding, fulfilling, and exciting adventure.
So, okay, 6 months. So we're in the third set right now. We're about to start the third set.
We're in the third set. I lost the first, came back and had a really encouraging second set. So, I'm just hoping that I can continue the momentum up here in the third.
So we know you're a big match player, so you'll pull through, obviously. But how has it been, though? Because I know the other thing, too, is you're super active. I mentioned it. Like, you play tennis, Ironman competitor. How has it been kind of rewiring your brain to do other things and slow down a bit if that's possible?
Yeah, let me tell you, this has been a really weird time for me. Like you said, I'm super active. The first trimester for me was, thankfully, did not get sick at all, which was a blessing because I've heard so many horror stories. But I was on the couch quite a bit, just struggling with a lot of fatigue. I would wake up in the morning after having a great sleep and then just feel completely exhausted just from like getting to my bedroom all the way to the kitchen. And those are the types of things I really struggled with, increase in appetite. I'm not like a super, I'm muscular. I'm not like a super skinny person. So seeing my body kind of change has been also a big adjustment for me, and especially since I'm not really training at the volume that I was when I was doing the Ironman and all that stuff. All things considered, it's really not that bad. But when you go from having this structured routine, working out every day, running multiple miles a day, biking, swimming, and all that stuff, to going from that to needing to walk instead of run, and maybe saying no to the gym, taking a week off sometimes from going to the gym, it's been really tough. And that's kind of been, I think, the most challenging part of this whole journey is accepting the fact that I have no control over my body, and for the first time in my life actually listening to what my mind and my body are trying to tell me, and most of the time it's a slow down.
Yeah. And I know it's going to be the new normal, and it's obviously such a blessing. But it's different, right? Because life, especially as a competitive athlete, when you're so singularly focused on something, that now there's something that changes. And I'm imagining, too, I mean, timing is different for your case, but gives you an appreciation of what these mothers on tour are doing, having to come back from this and build yourself back up.
Yeah, I mean, I can draw a lot of inspiration, from Svitolina, having talked to Belinda Bencic as well. We've talked quite a bit, and lots of respect because, I was there with her in Abu Dhabi and seeing kind of her process as well with her daughter before matches, her life outside of the court, and just talking to her about, being a new mom and how rewarding it's been for her. And I mean, I've already sat down with my husband and told him that I want to get back into Ironman after having our first child. So how that routine is going to look like, what I can do, what, mornings are probably, because I'm a morning person, which is phenomenal, and I need to get all my workouts done in the morning. But if I'm looking at, getting back into a world that I actually really enjoy, and that's why I'm going to continue doing the Ironman. But there needs to be a little bit of a balance. There needs to be a little bit of structure, and that's why I feel like this third set that I'm in right now, I'm trying to stay as consistent as I can, whether it's like going for a tiny run or walking every single day. I hate going to the gym just because I find it insanely boring. But just trying to be consistent, and knowing that, it's not going to be linear. Even though we see some of these girls coming back postpartum and just, already being not even missing a beat. But, I think they're giving themselves and granting themselves enough grace that if things don't necessarily go well right away, they've already won their biggest battle, and that is becoming a mother. And they, especially in the way that Svitolina and Bencic recognize it, tennis is like this small when it compares to having your own living, breathing mini you there with you day in and day out. And I think that's more rewarding than winning any tennis match.
Yeah, I've said that before too. It seems like it enhances focus, and you don't have to come back. You don't have to pick up the pieces or pick up where you left off. But if you do, you're hyper focused because you understand, priorities and where things are. Well, I'm excited for you, and as is the tennis calendar. I mean, you're still working as well. You were in Miami, and I wanted to ask you that experience. It's always been like a second home, maybe a primary home in a lot of ways. But what was covering it, working for Tennis Channel, the storylines, the flavor, everything that's changed so much? How was the Miami Open this year?
I mean, I loved my work schedule because, again, I'm morning, early afternoon person. By the time the afternoon rolls around, like late afternoon, I'm useless. So I had an 11 to 2 schedule, got in at 9 o'clock, was working Tennis Channel 2 for about 10 days with Mark Knowles, which was amazing. We were sequestered off, I would say, in Grandstand, which was really cool because, there were some really great matches on Grandstand, and I was actually really happy to be watching it, even though some of those matches we weren't calling. I have to admit, I got distracted sometimes because we're watching a match on the screen, and I would be more focused on what's happening on Grandstand because you have really good players playing some really great tennis. But the Miami Open was great. I felt like the energy on the grounds was very good. I like Key Biscayne as the tennis venue, and I will always miss that because I grew up going to the Sony Ericsson, the Lipton, everything being over there. And I feel like as a tennis player, we prefer Key Biscayne, but I feel like for fans, and if you really want to enjoy
Yeah.
a little bit of the flavor of Miami, I think the Miami Open does a great job at incorporating some of like the really great restaurants and having like their little booths there, the drinks, the atmosphere, the entertainment. For fans, it's a really ideal place to go and enjoy sporting events.
Yeah, it's a tough one because you understand why they upgraded. It makes sense.
Oh
It's the
yeah.
world it is, and for the fans especially. But you were a player, you're of a certain era, and a fan growing up, so you appreciate what it was. We're all nostalgic. It's just different
Oh
levels
yeah.
of it.
I mean, you
So
can't lose the history that once was, but you can always look forward to the future at what could
yeah.
be. So, yeah, and like you said, I do understand their reasons, and I think they were correct.
I wanted to ask you too. I'm not sure if you called one of her matches, but Miami is remembered. Obviously, Alcaraz won, and we saw Sabalenka dominant as always. But Alexandra Eala makes that run, the Filipino player who comes from nowhere and also kind of ushers in like a new fan base. There's no other Filipino tennis player ranked like currently. So, and as someone that's lived that life of, having a smaller country or a country, I should say, that's not rich in tennis history coming up and rallying around you, did you feel like you kind of could relate to what she was going through? Like really becoming a sensation in the blink of an eye?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the name did not come out of nowhere for me because um, working in the US Open for so many years with ESPN behind the scenes, we stay well until the tournament's over. And I remember when she won the US Open Junior title. So her name was already on my radar. And being with IMG, you get the wild card into Miami and really taking advantage of the opportunities. There were a few players who took advantage of wild card opportunities, which was really, really great to see, them rising to the occasion and not getting nervous. And one of my really good friends is actually Filipino. So we were talking about her all the time, and he was, constantly rooting for her. I'm like, she has some tough matches. Let's see how it's going to go. And then she was actually playing, I think she was playing on Grandstand against Madison Keys when I was calling some matches. I don't think Mark and I had the call on that match, but again, I was on Grandstand in the booth and I was able to watch. And Madison has had such an incredible start to the season. And I was like, okay, I want to see what this girl is all about, because I've heard her name, I've heard her results, but never really got to see her play. And she was playing fearlessly out there. The way that she would hug the baseline, she would, throw and redirect Madison's power back at her. The way she moved the ball around the court, it's like she was comfortable and had been doing that forever. And Grandstand typically plays pretty fast there at the Miami Open, so I was really surprised to see that. But her attitude and the way that she conducted herself, even though she was the underdog, it seemed like that of a seasoned player who had already been there. And, I can only hope that she continues this way. I feel like right now things might be a little bit easier for her because there's no real big points to defend. You're just starting out. Players don't necessarily have a lot of video on you, don't have a lot of stats to study. So as she starts building, maybe this period is one that she can say, okay, let me just like really capitalize on this, like Andreeva has in the past. She started really building, and now people start to see her, understand her, even though she's had really great results, Andreeva. But now it's like, okay, we need to keep an eye on this one. Now she has the target on her back. So with Ayala's big run in Miami, the target starts to grow, and it's going to be really curious to see how she develops. Hopefully, she continues to have a great head on her shoulders, which it seems like it does. She's training at the Rafael Nadal Academy, which I imagine has many, many people who have been around Rafa, who have seen his trajectory. And also, being from the Philippines, I know that not just in sports, but, whether it's in pageantry, whether it's in all of these really great entertainment sides of the world, I feel like they're just so passionate about what they do, and you can just see it. They seem like happy people. I haven't been to the Philippines, but I do know a few people from the Philippines, and they're just genuinely such nice people. So it's going to be really exciting to see.
Yeah, a lot of great points there. Rafael Nadal too, just always tweeting support was great to see every match. It was just a congratulatory post on social media, which was awesome. And yeah, the point being is that you go on these runs like your Olympic run, like you're unconscious, you're just in the moment, you're in the zone. And then the next question is, what happens when you wake up? What's the next step look like? I love that she's playing smaller events. She's, taking it slow. So we'll see. I mean, there's no guarantees at this point, but it's really cool that when we have a new area, come to the tennis world. Like, this is great. I hope she's good, not just because I'd like to see another good player, but it'd be nice to unlock more fan support from a different area of the world that, as you said, is passionate and it could learn about tennis and, be added to the party.
Big time. I mean, we'd love to see it. There's a lot of new talent, a lot of fresh faces that are starting to break into the tennis world, and it's good not to see the same player over and over, and then all of a sudden we have these little bursts of excitement that we're like, okay, let's keep our eye on this one for a little bit.
Did you almost get caught up in it was crazy. The Fonseca Brazilian fans, they came and almost took over the stadium for a couple of days.
I mean, I had never seen him play. And typically when I leave the site, I mean, everybody knows who Joao Fonseca is. I know he had won his first title in Buenos Aires. I know all of these things. So I'm constantly, even if I'm not commentating, I'm always on X, which is where I get most of my Twitter news. I'm always, on Instagram. I follow many players and seeing the results, and I'm constantly on the live score app. So I know what's going on and I know all the happenings, but I've never actually seen him play. So when I leave work or when I'm not actively commentating, I don't really turn on Tennis Channel to watch, tennis, because, I try and keep the two worlds separate. But when something piques my curiosity, I'm like, So when I get back to my parents' house, my mom is watching her novelas and, never come between a Latin woman and her novellas, please. Like, just don't. But I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry. I need to turn on the TV and I need to watch this kid. He was playing Lerner Tien.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to see both of these players. I need to see, because there's been a lot of chatter about both. And the level was so high. And I was like, dear Lord, like, this is, this kid is really living up to the hype. Him and Lerner Tien as well. And it was just a great thing to see two young players playing on the stadium court, just ripping forehands and backhands and serves and just like really going for it, not really holding back. There wasn't any indication of nerves, fear. They were actually competing. And that's what you really like to see in the young kids. That's like, you're in a big moment. People expect things from you because you've been the talk of the town lately. And it's just that professional aura around them. And you can see how he's signed by Rolex, he's signed by On. Like, there's a lot of expectation on his shoulders. And it seems like he's handling the hype very well. Again, like Eala, I hope this continues and he can continue to build from this. But he's making great strides so far.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's fun to see. And yeah, shout out to Nico Pereira was like, yeah, those weren't tennis fans. Those were Brazilian football fans.
Yeah, I mean, when I played in Miami, and it's like what they said, when I played, when any South American played, it's no longer tennis fans. They're just South American, Caribbean, Central American, just diehard sports fans.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can go to Miami, speak Spanish anywhere, and you will get a response in Spanish. Like that, it's so multicultural and so Latin that it's incredible.
We got more here with Monica Puig on the Inside in Tennis podcast. We're talking all things tennis, and we're getting into the clay court season, which is really exciting. European clay season underway. The fellas just completed Monte Carlo, and the women start in Stuttgart and have been starting in Stuttgart. Monica, this tournament is essentially what Monte Carlo is. It's that 1 week premier event, Masters, and you're getting heavy hitters. You've got pretty much all the top players on the dirt, and it's a really exciting time. And I was wondering too.
Don't forget the Porsche. I feel like you're leaving out the Porsche for the top players there.
No, it means a lot. Aryna Sabalenka has done it all. She can't win a Porsche, and maybe this is the year. So, playing for the Porsche. I don't see anyone sitting in those cars though behind the base, elevated.
Yeah,
so.
I wouldn't be comfortable sitting in a car watching a tennis match, but that's pretty much the prestige and the big highlight of the tournament is like, I gotta win it so I can win the Porsche.
Well, what do you think about the ambiance too of, little dark, the lighting? I don't know. Does that really affect you too much, or when you're playing in some of these events that seem like as a viewer and you're watching it on TV, it's like really dark inside?
Yeah, so I played Stuttgart once, and the courts seemed a little strange to me because it didn't seem like your typical indoor clay. It felt very slippery. I don't know if it's changed over the years. But yeah, that super dark ambiance. I was able to play in a similar situation when the WTA finals were in Singapore. They had the Rising Star exhibition in 2014, I think it was. And so the final match was played on center court, and it was blacked out where the audience was, and the only lights were on the court.
So you can't see the crowd. Like you're just...
You can't. Yeah. I mean, you can if you're really paying attention, but no, you really can't. And it's kind of odd because it's like... I'm playing at nighttime, but then all of a sudden you leave the venue and it's still daytime, and it's kind of weird. But at the same time, I think it gives it a little bit of that like glamour, that drama, that tension, I guess. And you don't really play too many indoor clay events, and there's not that many indoor events. So if you're a player who likes to hit the ball hard, it is very fast. At that venue, you take advantage of that week. And also it's sometimes nice to get out of the sunshine, especially when it's going to get very tricky with the conditions, how it usually is over clay court season, that you can get, all 4 seasons in one day.
You have these run up to Roland Garros, and all these tournaments play differently. That's what we're learning too. Madrid at altitude, you have Rome, Stuttgart indoor. So exciting. And I want to see, we mentioned her, but Sabalenka, crazy how the schedule works, right? Has a bye, has a walkover. They're off because of the schedule, because of the rules, no tennis on Good Friday. So the final will actually be on Monday. Everybody's off. So Sabalenka doesn't play her first match in this tournament till Saturday. Hanging out in Stuttgart, going right to the quarterfinals, Monica, is odd. And I would say for somebody whose goals are to win Roland Garros, to extend her lead as the best player in the world, I think she might have rather preferred a match before this instead of that walkover.
Yeah, I mean, I think she even posted today that she's like patiently waiting or something, just on the practice court, like, okay. And we know that Sabalenka, like we were talking about, money, she's got it. Titles, she's got it. She has everything. And for especially last season was really showing some really great signs of playing really well on the clay. And I feel like the clay in Madrid, for example, Rome is a little bit slower, but Madrid, playing in the French Open, they're faster courts like Stuttgart. Maybe not as fast as Stuttgart, but I feel like the ball zips through the court really quick. So it's all in her favor, I feel like, to have really great success in the clay season. But these types of things, for her, it's like she just wants to get out there and play. She is the tiger, that is her trademark. She is not this type of player that's, oh yes, okay, great, I can have one more day to like rest, or she's not the type of player that shies away from the competition. She wants it, she lives it, she's her best self when she's in these moments. And I feel like, being the tiger that she is, she's just ready to pounce. So for her to be waiting, it's probably making her antsy, but she has such a great relationship with her team. I think off the court things are going really well for her. Mentally, she seems to be in a really great place. So, I can only assume that everybody's just kind of like trying to keep her calm and just be like, okay, you're gonna get out there eventually. Let's just, keep her head down, keep working, and do what we have to do.
Yeah, I mean, she's the baddest woman on the block. Like she's the alpha right now. And we talk about duality of players' personalities. Some aren't good, but this one's great because she's super nice, bubbly off the court, and she is a stone cold killer when she gets out there. So if she wins, if she
Yeah.
has this clay success, if she gets that Roland Garros title, I mean, there's nothing really else. She's proven on hard court she's been the best. We saw it in Miami. So can she track down? Is it Iga's time to just continue to win? She's already got 4 Roland Garroses, but I will say, and she's been great. She's won here before. You can't heap enough praise on her on clay. The least amount of momentum she has coming into this clay run, I think, is safe to say.
Yeah, I mean, Iga for so many years has been very dominant and undisputed when it comes to clay because she has a lot more time. And I feel like, even though she's very explosive with her footwork and she's looking to constantly eat the court up and take time away, I feel like she does benefit from having a little bit more time, and the faster courts are not necessarily her thing. Now, one thing that I feel like Sabalenka, if she does it right this clay court season, is just, be a tiny bit more patient. And I feel like that's where some of these clay court matches against Iga maybe got away from her, is maybe holding off on that winner just one extra ball
Mhm.
and building that point just one extra shot. I feel like can really benefit her because physically, let's just say it, she's there. Hitting the ball, she can, pretty much take the racket out of Iga's hand. I feel like she can hit the ball just as hard as any man or woman on tour. Um, but Iga is just that person who's going to get that extra ball back. She's going to make you play, and mentally that screws with a lot of players' heads. It's going to be interesting to see because they had a very interesting rivalry last season. I'm also really curious to see how Andreeva, for the first time defending some really big points at the French
Right.
Open, needs to defend a semi. How Paolini reacts to all of it. Said she also hasn't had great, momentum going into the clay season, but, did kind of come back to life in Miami. She had a little bit of an injury in Dubai. I'm really interested to
Yep.
see how she's gonna come and need to defend 2 really big results
Right.
back to back in the Grand Slams coming up. But at this moment I can safely say that Sabalenka is my pick for all of this, just
Oh,
because of how she's been, especially recognizing that after she lost at the Australian Open, she said that mentally she was struggling to find that hunger, just kind of a little bit, whatever. And then did this quick
just
reset,
yeah.
just like out of nowhere, and in
Mhm.
Miami was just like, I'm here.
I definitely think that the history of the Iga Sabalenka rivalry has been fascinating. In the past, I mean, you could see it. Clay suits Iga. She can frustrate Sabalenka, and Sabalenka was prone to going too big, getting frustrated, taking herself out.
Yeah.
That's very rare these days, like what Sabalenka has done and how she's adjusted and show maturity. So that's another layer to consider. But I want to point out, because you mentioned players, but this tournament, specifically Stuttgart, we might not get Sabalenka Iga because we'll see. We're recording this, 10 o'clock on the West Coast on Thursday. We're about 40 minutes away from Emma Navarro playing Ostapenko. If Ostapenko wins that match, Ostapenko Iga,
And
another edition of the
Ostapenko
weirdest
has her
rivalry.
number. Yeah,
5 and
Ostapenko has
0.
her number, which is yeah, we say it's an odd rivalry, but it goes back to what I was talking about. Another player who can hit the racket out of Iga's
Does that
hand.
make sense to you though? I mean, not like obviously 5 and 0 is an insane number, but you have a player in Ostapenko who is ranked lower. Iga's been at the top, but Ostapenko's shown she can redline. But is there elements of Ostapenko's game that make sense why she would have so much success against Iga?
I feel like with Ostapenko, if she is really solid in the first one, two, three shots of a rally, that's where she's most dangerous. And like what we're saying, if Iga can get to that extra ball, bring it back, and then that frustrates the mind of Ostapenko. We know that mentally it's a little bit hit or miss when she's out on the court. But I think what makes Ostapenko so dangerous is that one, two, three first couple shots of the
Yeah.
rally, because she can hit any line. She can hit the ball just as hard as anybody, and she's not afraid to go for her shots, whether that means it's this much in or this much out. So I feel like every time that Ostapenko has played Iga, she's been on and it's all been working, and that's great. Iga needs to try and find a way to break that pattern of Ostapenko being able to hit her off the court outright.
Yeah.
I feel like clay is the place to do it for sure. But it's safe to say that Iga's team, if it happens, needs to do their homework and just be like, okay, we can't make this 6-0. We have to find a way to break this cycle. And maybe also Iga mentally needs to, whether she's thinking about it or not, kind of, take it out of her head and just be like, okay, this is a new match. It's a new day. We don't know what's going to happen. Maybe, I redline today and I hit every line and Ostapenko just can't get there. But you can always count on the fact that you never know quite what to expect with Ostapenko, because it's either she wakes up on the right side of the bed or the wrong side of the bed, either hits every single line or misses a ton of shots in a row. But also played really well, I believe, in Rome a couple years ago, and has the potential. We saw her win her first Grand Slam title at the French Open, so playing on clay is not scary for her. But that the number at least is very surprising.
Yeah, I think Iga might be meeting with Navarro right now, being like, "Here's what you got to do. Here's how you do it." No, and maybe the ace in her back pocket for Iga is that there's electronic line calling on clay now, so that could kind of throw Ostapenko off. We know she's not a fan of that, but I heard, I think it was Andrea Pekovic. Yeah, she said that how Iga kind of kicks that ball up. Ostapenko is one of the few players that has a higher strike zone, so it could just be as simple as that. Styles make fights in every sport, and
She's
who knows?
tough, man. Like her strokes are kind of tough to read, especially the serve. Like she seems to toss the ball up and hit it right away. It seems like you don't really have time to get a read on where she's gonna hit, which makes her so tricky. At least when I played her, that was the biggest thing that I struggled with. I was like, I can't see where she's winding up. I can't see where she's going to hit the ball. I can't really anticipate based off of where she positions her body, because she does hide it really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would have to agree with Pekovic there.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Mensik winning Miami, beating Djokovic. That was the biggest thing I took away in that match. Djokovic, greatest return of all time, couldn't read the serve, and that's such a huge advantage. Like, that just sets you behind the eight ball, and you can't, in his case, don't recover. We'll see. I mean, Emma Navarro, another player that if she can, she can have a big match, win there, make things interesting. You did mention, though, Jasmine Paolini. She's been winning, pretty handily in her opening matches, gets to the quarterfinals. And in the interview afterwards, just talking the positive approach. And I think it's something that it's safe to say, right? It's great to have her in the game, but also all these tennis players are just envious. Like, how could you be so positive throughout the course of such a brutal game?
I mean, she has, I think, the best attitude out of all the players. I mean, I did a lot of her matches courtside last year at the French Open, and I was like, how is she smiling right now? Like, what is going on? Like, in the heat of the moment, you would be, just all tension, all just, and she, would smile, she's enjoying it, but that just shows like she just loves the thrill of competition, which sometimes, it stresses us out. It would stress me out for sure. But she just loves it. And I feel like also, coaching change
Yeah.
in the middle of the season, very risky, but also if you've heard the same voice for a while and all of a sudden you get a new voice in your camp that's maybe saying the same things that you were hearing before, but just explained in a different way, might have a significant impact for her. It's going to be really curious to see again how that develops in the next couple weeks, months, if it sticks or not. But
Mhm.
for her that was a pretty bold move. Um, but it's gonna be a very interesting summer for Paolini.
Certainly will be. A lot to defend. The only upset, as I mentioned, that we saw so far, Andreeva got beat pretty good by Alexandrova, who's no slouch. Everybody else still in it. Pegula won today. Coco, as we're recording, is rolling right now. So the Americans are holding up their end of the bargain. Two different situations, right? Because Coco's trying to find her momentum, find success on the clay. Monica and Pegula riding high, winning Charleston, finals of Miami, losing to Sabalenka. And as you said, growing up playing against her, she just makes like life difficult for the opponent. That's the takeaway, is that the player that she's facing, other than maybe Sabalenka, is always just under duress when they're playing Jessie.
Yeah, and that's true because I played and grew up playing with her in the juniors. I remember we played a couple times when we were like 15, 16 years old. And and it was funny because a couple years ago, um I think she even said, like, a lot of people think that I don't really hit the ball hard because it doesn't look like I'm putting a lot of effort into my strokes. And I talked to one of her coaches, Mark Knowles, that I was working with him, and I'm like, it's so impressive seeing Jessie play because yes, it doesn't look like she's putting a lot of effort into her stroke, but she has this easy power that comes off of her racket and seems to be she can like deal with what's coming her way very well on the court. I feel like whether she's dealing with the power of Sabalenka, whether she's dealing with somebody who doesn't hit the ball as big, she can do a lot of different things on the court.
Mm.
Has had a lot of success on the double side, so can come to the net, has good touch, has a good head on her shoulders too, competes really well, has been knocking on the door for some time at being a slam contender. She didn't get there at the US Open last year, but competes incredibly well. And I feel like that's why she's been doing as well as she has, because it's one thing to hit the ball well, but it's another to compete as well as she does.
And when you give yourself a chance by just being consistent, going deep into draws. I know it's a tough matchup when you play Sabalenka, Iga on the clay, but she's giving herself that opportunity, and that's all you can ask for. Well, I'm excited to see here Monica Puig on the Inside in Tennis podcast. Do we have any thoughts on the men's games? I mean, there's big tournaments in Barcelona and Stuttgart. In Barcelona, the field is loaded. It's going to be just tough to beat Alcaraz. That's the first note I had. Alcaraz on the clay at home. Like, how do you deal with this guy?
I don't know. It seems like he got his mojo back with the win in Monte Carlo, which is really great to see because I mean I love him for the sport. Got to spend a little bit of time with him when he came to Puerto Rico for the
Yeah.
exhibition match he played against Francis. So again, great head on his shoulders, spent some time with his dad. I mean, you can see why he has the mentality that he does because he's just so grounded. And his dad told me, he's like, the minute I see him kind of like getting up there in the clouds, I'm gonna yank him back down. So it's really great that he has that support system in his family that keeps him humble. But yeah, the clay season's gonna be really interesting because Yannick Sinner coming back in Rome. You have Zverev, who's maybe dealing with the pressure of, having that number one within his grasp, which he's had,
Yeah.
this talk of for so many years. And then him saying that he plays really well at the French Open, then that could potentially be a slam that he could win. I'm going to be curious to see Casper Ruud, how he deals with everything, defending some big points. Tsitsipas defending some big points as well. There could be some massive moves here in the next coming weeks on the ATP side as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I want to see how Djokovic recovers as well. He had the issue with his eye. Um, there, tennis, it's this never-ending carousel of wins, losses, of upsets, and expected triumphs, and on clay, I think it gets even more unpredictable with the clay, the grass. So it's going to be interesting. Lots of really cool storylines that we could potentially watch in the next coming weeks, months.
Yes, Zverev going back to Germany might be what he needed. Go home, play local, and then he's done very well Madrid, Rome, into RG as well. So that could be something. Casper looking better, as you mentioned. Other guy too. I mean, he was the semifinalist, but Fokina, loses to Alcaraz, but he beat Rublev this morning. He's got 20 match wins already this year, and this is where he thrives. And you're going to see that in play on both tours. Players that are maybe in that 20, 30 ranked range that are playing like top 10 players on the dirt.
I think they're starting maybe to see a little bit of more vulnerability in the top players, and it's something that we started to see with the WTA side, is that, okay, the top 10, they're not untouchable, they're not invincible. It really depends on your mindset that you go into the court on that day. If you have a good plan that you execute with your team, if you're able to deal with adversity, because let's just call it how it is, the top 10, if you win the first set 6-1, they're not going to hand you the second set 6-1 or 6-2 or 6-0. You're going to have to work for it, because they're going to be like, okay, maybe hitting to his backhand the whole entire time wasn't the right move. I'm going to change it up and I'm going to do something different. So these players, when they go into the court, they have to say, okay, I have my plan A. If plan A just starts to fail a little bit, let me take a little bit of responsibility to myself and see how I can figure this out, because at the end of the day, I have the advantage and I need to close this out. I need to put on my big boy pants and start playing some big boy tennis. So starting to see more vulnerability like we've seen, and some of the lower ranked players, I'm not going to say super low ranked, because being in the top 30 in the ATP is really impressive. But starting to see like, hey, I can do this. If Mensik could win Miami the way that he did, almost crashing out in the first round because he had a knee injury and was going to retire, and being able to win his first Masters 1000 title like that, I think it just sets up the precedent for anybody to say, okay, let me step up to the plate and see if I can hit a home run on this one.
Do you find it weird or interesting? Like, arbitrarily, we view top 10. It's just a round number, right? These are the top 10 players. Why that's almost like a cutoff in our minds. Because talking to Paul Annacone last year, he said, like, I viewed it even as a coach working with Fritz. There's like a top 3 that are a cut above. Then there's like 3 to 12 that are in a different range. And then you have, so there are tiers. I agree with you. But sometimes we might just call it a top 10 because that's just the number. I don't know if you agree or on the same wave of thinking, but they're a lot closer, and it might not just be a cutoff like you're a top 10 player or you're not.
Yeah, like we said, the vulnerability is there, and I don't feel like we have a top 10 or a top 3 or a top 5 like in previous years where they were just always the same guys. Now we're starting to see more different guys in the mix. Like we have Fonseca, we have Tien, we have, like you were saying, Davidovich Fokina, now we have Mensik. We have so many different players that are starting to cause like a little bit of a disruption in the force, let's say, of the ATP. And it's cool to see, because you want to see, this might sound bad, you want to see a top player suffer a little bit, but you want to see somebody who's not afraid to push back when they're being pushed. And it's just to be like, look, I'm going into the court and playing Carlos Alcaraz. The odds are not going to be in my favor. Let's just call it how it is. But if I come into the court and just say, he's the number 1 player in the world right now on clay, because, Sinner isn't playing and Zverev hasn't really had the great results.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose. Then you know what? Just why are you even going to bother showing up that day? But if you say, I'm going to give myself the best chance to win, and I have the tools that can beat someone, because you never know. Alcaraz sometimes is a spotty player, has his ups and downs, and he's acknowledged it as well, that that's something he needs to work on. But if you're able to capitalize in those moments when Alcaraz is not, Superman and he's Clark Kent, then maybe, you can find your opening there and kind of make inroads. But really, I feel, and tennis has kind of shifted back to this, I feel like it goes in waves. Tennis becomes incredibly physical at one point, and then it shifts to becoming extremely mental. And right now we're seeing kind of that mental side start to prevail, that players are like, okay, it's my time. If I start believing that I can do it, then, I know I've done the work outside the court, and the tennis is there. Because when you see it, everybody can hit a tennis ball at this point. Everybody knows how to hit cross courts, down the lines, winners, aces, whatever. But mentally is where you're really going to make the difference.
I agree completely. It's going to be fun to see. And I know we're on the heels of the Masters for a different sport, but the golf major that I like the best is the U.S. Open in golf because it's the hardest. And you want to see, even if you're a fan of general sports, general players, you want to see the top players pushed. You want to see them have to overcome adversity. And
Yeah.
that's what's great about this era.
McIlroy, for me, I was following the Masters,
Yeah.
and he seemed like he was going to comfortably get through.
It's crazy.
And then all of a sudden you have somebody who's just like, I'm right here, I'm pushing you, and people were like, oh no, he's going to flop. And again, when McIlroy hadn't won a major in 10 plus years, and see him overcome that adversity, like you were saying, when he was pushed, that's what you want to see. Is that's the making of a champion, and that's what we've seen time and time again with Rafa, Federer, Djokovic. When they're pushed, they come to play. They don't shy away from that, and that's what we're starting to see with some of these up and comers as well. That when they're pushed by a top player, they're saying, "Okay, I respect you and everything for your resume and whatever, but I can hit the ball too, and I'm here and I'm going to push you." So.
Best part about sports. Well, this has been a fun chat with Monica Puig. The last thing I had on tennis, did you happen to see in Munich the celebration from that German teenager?
I did.
Diego Dedura Palomero. What was going on there? And I will say, youth movement, youth brain. I mean, we've all been there. I've been 17 before too. So Shapovalov retires. It is your first tour win. But for those out there watching or listening, he shakes hands, he offers condolences, and then he goes absolutely nuts, lays down, and rolls around the clay. So I'm just going to ask a former pro, what was that?
Okay. I thought I saw it all before. Yeah. This is just a new tier of I've seen it all. Understandable, being where he's at, 17, you don't really have your bearings yet. It's your first ATP Tour win. Whether it counts as a win or not, he was up. I'm going to call it like it is. He was up. It's not like he was losing the match and then there was a retirement. However, out of respect to your opponent and them losing, retiring because of something that went wrong, sure, maybe you can whatever to the fans after. I feel like the celebration was way overdone. And do it when you actually shake hands that the match is over, that you actually beat your opponent. But I feel like it blurred the lines of respect there and might not have been seen as something very, we're going to call it like it is, not very locker room friendly, especially when you're just coming up and you want to start gaining that respect from your peers. I don't think that warrants a lot of respect. But 17-year-olds, I've been there. We do some pretty stupid things sometimes, and this could be just another learning experience. I mean, we saw Shapo many years ago, out of frustration, whack a ball,
he was 17,
accidentally hit the
at
umpire.
that age too. Yeah.
He didn't mean it. He did not mean it. Djokovic as well, and he was not 17, way older. Out of frustration, hits a ball, hits somebody, you get defaulted. So we as human beings were prone to making mistakes. We're prone to, doing things without thinking rationally. I'll give him a pass. Yeah. I'll give him a reprieve because he is 17. However, I feel like this is a good learning process to also be like, okay, I need to also be respectful and mindful of others and read the room a little bit. Like this was a retirement and you should be like maybe a little bit more, toned down.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength. It was totally over the top and absurd in a lot of ways, but this is a good lesson. Don't want to, just totally trash somebody on the way down.
Again, no. It is a first ATP Tour win. You can only imagine what's going through his mind, and that's probably only thing that's going through his mind, and not empathy. But it's a lesson learned and page turned, and people will forget about this for sure. But you don't want him to just completely forget and just be like, okay, let me mature a little bit more here.
A nice conversation will do the job, but there's nothing like youthful exuberance. There's nothing like teenage exuberance for sure. Monica Puig, this has been a blast. The last thing too, and it just came down. I wanted to get your thoughts too, and it's unbelievably deserved. But Rafael Nadal will be honored at this year's Roland Garros after early round matches. So I know it's like the easiest slam dunk in the world, but it will be pretty cool, and I'm sure the tribute fitting for a 14-time king in Paris.
I mean, what more can you expect? I mean, that is his house. I mean, fact of the matter is he has the statue outside of Philippe Chatrier. that is his house. I wouldn't be surprised in the future if they build another stadium that it's gonna have his name. He's probably next in line, for sure, and it's only fitting. He deserves it. I feel like not because of the player who he was, but the type of person that he is, and I feel like was very respected when we're talking about fierce competitors, the fiercest of them all. So that's going to be really great to see. Hopefully, going to see him present in the stands, for many, many matches, many, many night sessions, and 150% deserved.
So deserved. And I want to look right into the screen as you're listening. The most unbreakable record in sports. I can't think of another one. 14 Roland Garroses. We won't be alive to see it. I don't even know if they'll be playing tennis.
I feel like it's immortalized at this point. If it ends up being broken, it'll probably be like when we're playing tennis and hovercrafts or whatever. But the athleticism, the mental fortitude, and just the sheer will to win on clay, 3 out of 5 sets, as grueling as the French Open gets, especially in that second week. I tip my hat for sure.
It's the very best at what he did on the clay. Monica Puig, this was a blast. Always just so much fun talking tennis with you. Congrats again. Can't wait. You're in that third set. We'll be doing this again. I'll be following along. But thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It is always a real treat.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
That was Monica Puig. This is the Inside In Tennis podcast. We're available on all your platforms. Just go to Spotify, Apple, iHeart, wherever you get your shows. Search Inside In Tennis podcast, subscribe, leave a nice rating and a review. Get those episodes automatically downloaded, and watch the video episode of this show on YouTube. The channel is Mitch Michals, and you can find YouTube shorts as well. So we'll be bringing you tennis talk for the foreseeable future. Back next week. For Monica Puig, I'm Mitch Michals. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. I thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.